I have a rock solid plan for you to use one of the fastest growing markets and personally make more than 6 figures in profit with Instagram alone. There are 4 steps to this plan, and it's going to take place over the next 12 months. Last week, I decided to share this exact 4-step plan to my Instagram stories, and almost everyone who responded agreed that it was the only realistic way to make 6 figures from Instagram. And who can blame them? It's the exact same gate-kept path Jeff Nippard, Alex Hormozi, and all of the top 1% creators have been using for years. So with that being said, I'm going to explain to you exactly what we need to do, starting with step 1, the perception wall. Now, as weird as this sounds, the perception wall is an absolute make or break for any business or creator posting on Instagram. Because without it, I hate to say it, but you're probably never going to get anywhere from posting short form content. Now, rather than me giving you a lecture on what the this weirdly named concept is, the best way for me to explain the perception wall is with this very simple example. Let's say you're in the market for a business mentoring program. Of course, like any sane human, you only really want to purchase the absolute best of the best. Because let's be real, if money was no object, why wouldn't you? Well, the answer is you wouldn't. But as true as that is, unfortunately, the only way to truly know whose business mentorship program is the best is by wasting a boatload of cash on all the programs you can find. Therefore, wasting God knows how much time going through all the programs that you splash the cash. Of course, unless you love draining your bank account and staring at a screen for days on end going through programs, just doesn't happen. You have to realize your viewers and therefore the general market does not and never will pay for the best. And it's for the simple reason that it's impossible to tell who that is. But instead, they pay for the people who offer products and services that they believe to be the best. So that begs the question, how on earth do you make damn sure you're believed to be the best by everyone in your niche? Well, it's very simple. And this is where that perception wall comes in. The first part of the wall, and step numero uno, is making sure your content is the most valuable out of your competitors. I mean, just think about it. If your viewers aren't going to buy every business mentoring program out there, which they won't, they'll base their buying decision on the next best thing down the pecking order, which is your content's value. And lucky for you, this really couldn't be much easier to control. For example, if we were to boot those vanity metrics of followers, likes, and whose close friends list you're on out of the window, which by the way, don't matter anyway, and we just look solely at the content alone, you'd base your buying decision on how helpful, useful, and actionable the person's content was before buying their shit. And for good practice, let's keep moving with this business example. In fact, let's say there were 5 business mentoring programs on the market from creators that you follow. For example, it could be Alex Hormozi, Dan Martell, James Smith, Iman Gadzi, God, don't buy that one, and Cam Business. And if we lined up all of their profiles and cross-referenced their content, I think pretty quickly we'd sniff out those clear winners. Sorry, Mr. Cam Business. Now, the reason Alex Hormozi, Dan Martell, and James Smith come out on top is for the simple reason that every single one of their videos helped you go from A to Z. They were also useful. Therefore, not only did it help you do something, you can also see yourself using it. And third and finally, all the info in their video was actionable. For example, if good old Cam Business made a video on an 18-month ritual to sign your first client, that's about as unactionable as it can get. But if our good friend Alex here made a video on signing your first client, regardless of the business model, and within 48 hours, that's not only helpful and useful because you can see yourself actually using it, but it's actionable as because although the name of the video is a bit of a giveaway, you can action it within 48 hours. But Cam, you've thrown the word perception wall at me 100 times now, so let me tell you what it actually means. Hold your horses, I'm about to break it down. When you have a product or service to sell, you also unfortunately have a wall slap bang in front of whatever it is you're selling. On one side, you have your paid services. On the other, well, that's the side your customers are on. That's the perception wall, by the way, if you haven't clocked it. Now, at the start of your business or creator journey, the wall is basically unscalable. But as we make more and more valuable content, that wall starts to get knocked down bit by bit. Therefore, making that jump from the prospect side over to the area where your products and services are become easier. And trust me, this is an analogy I stick by. I mean, it's the same reason I got 0 clients from months of posting shit like this, but after just posting a handful of videos like this, signing clients was no longer a struggle. And if you haven't already guessed it, it meant my perception wall was practically already knocked over. Okay, so now will probably be a good time to say that the perception wall isn't just made up of the valuable content you post. God, if only it was that easy. It's actually made up of 3 parts in total. We've just covered the first and arguably the hardest to crack. But that brings us on to part and step number 2, results. Now picture this. And bear with me on this one. I promise it will make it super clear why results are absolutely crucial. There's 2 restaurants in town, both serving the same sort of food, with 2 top-class chefs cooking up in the kitchen. And believe it or not, they now both post content as well. But one restaurant has thousands of reviews, whereas the other one has only got 3 ratings, probably from the chef himself on 3 different accounts. With that information alone, where would you rather head for dinner? Well, regardless of the content that each place is posting, it's always going to be the first restaurant every single time. Because in reality, the more results and testimonials you have, the more that perception wall falls, which is of course the same for any product or service that you're selling. So that begs the question, how do you get and more importantly showcase your results? Well, this is social media, not TripAdvisor. So we only really have one option here, and that's in the form of your Instagram stories. And of course, there's a very simple results formula that you can use. I will say it is 5 steps, albeit they're incredibly simple. So if you actually want to knock down that perception wall entirely, then these 5 steps are going to be vital for you. First things first, we need a story background. We recommend to keep it nice and simple by using a photo from your camera roll. Second, we need a text hook. This just needs to be 4 words or less, so anyone viewing your story can understand the topic in less than 1 second. Then, to complement your hook, go for a depicting emoji as well. Third, and probably most most important, we need evidence. Now, of course, there's no point in posting a result if you don't have it. I know it'll be different for everyone. If you're a business mentor, like our example earlier, then a Stripe screenshot and messages with your clients can do the trick. But if your services are a little bit more out there, such as a dental implant center, then a photo of a before and after will work just fine. Then steps 4 and 5 are where you need to add in a text description and a reply CTA. For example, saying something like reply to this story with the word now to get the same result. That'll work the best. And if you don't believe me, this story of mine with just a slightly different concept got over 10,000 views using a reply CTA, which of course for stories is pretty unheard of. Right, that's 2 out of 3 sections of our perception wall covered. Let's go on to the third and final point, lead magnets. And this is where the word perception comes into play. A lead magnet should essentially be a snippet or vision into the other side of the wall. Essentially, it's the same idea of a test drive, the tasting stools that you get at Costco, or even the first one free scenario. Now, it should go without saying, but the lead magnet has to be up to the same level as your paid services. And therefore, once someone's gone through any of your lead magnets, they should be subconsciously saying, wow, if that's what he's giving away for free, imagine how good the paid must be. And when we're talking about lead magnets that bring in sales, there's only 2 key types and 1 method of giving them away. First up, we have extended guides. Now, this should be 2 pages minimum of pure value based on a topic that would be in your paid services. So if you're a business coach and in your program, you give your customers a time management protocol, you could easily give away a 2-page guide to time boxing, which in other words is just a snippet of what's to come in the paid services. Second, we have the lead magnet type that we use the most, added value templates. And as the name suggests, these are templates that focus on saving your viewers time with a task that takes them ages. For example, I constantly talk about filming and shot listing over on my Instagram page. And therefore, I've been giving away this shot list template as a lead magnet for months now. And with that alone, I've generated well over 4,000 leads and signed crazy high ticket clients because of it. Which leads us nicely on to how to deliver the lead magnets. And as much as you could run paid ads to them, YouTube videos, or try 100 other different methods, by far, the absolute best way to get as many people going through them is via your Instagram Reels, and more specifically, your Instagram comment call to action. Which of course, for those of you that don't know, is where at some point in the video, the person on camera will say something along the lines of, comment list and I'll send it to you for free. And of course, the whole aim of this is to give them a lead magnet. Now, I can't tell you how many times I see creators mess this bit up, but to make sure you get it right with your videos, your lead magnet just needs to directly extend the video's value. So if we're still on the topic of business mentoring, and we take our good friend Alex and his signing a client in 48 hours example, the first type of lead magnet for that video could have been a full breakdown or a step-by-step guide on doing exactly that. Or for the second type of lead magnet, you could have given away an outreach template that you can use to sign clients. But what we wouldn't want to do is give away something that's kind of related, but not 100%. And the reason's simple. Let's say Alex's video is around 60 seconds long and the call to action doesn't come till around 50 seconds in. At the 50-second mark, 100% of the people still watching are of course interested in the topic of signing a client within 48 hours. Therefore, if we give them anything but a lead magnet that extends that topic, we aren't maximizing our comments and therefore leads. Even though it might seem like a great idea to give lead magnets such as a business idea plan or how to build a killer funnel, where they aren't 100% related to the video's topic, we aren't going to see nearly as many people commenting on the video. And therefore, we're not going to see the conversions that we're looking for. Wow, that was a lot of info. But simply by making sure your content's the most valuable in your niche, utilizing your results stories, and using lead magnets effectively, we can essentially completely remove that perception wall, as the barrier to your prospects becoming paying customers pretty much non-existent now. In this day and age, every single one of our prospects is in a different position, and someone that's in dire need of your services may not be able to afford your $10,000 one-on-one program, but they might have the funds for a $500 product. Therefore, if you don't have the $500 product available, you're of course missing out on revenue. Or worse yet, if a super qualified prospect discovers you from those first 3 steps we discussed, you don't have that high ticket program available, but instead you only offer the $500 product, the chances are you're going to be missing out on that $10,000 they would have sent you in a heartbeat. And even if they do end up purchasing the $500 product, that's still $9,500 lost unrealized revenue. That's a tough day in the office. So that begs the question you're inevitably shouting at me from behind the screen. How can you maximize your revenue at all stages? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's done in the form of a value ladder. The theory is, the higher the ladder climbs, the more value you provide. Therefore, the more you can charge at each level. And of course, at each stage of that ladder lies a product or service. But rather than me reeling off why value ladders are the best thing for any business, let me just show you. And you guessed it, for the example, let's use that business mentoring program again. In particular, we'll take a look at good old Eman Ghazi. Now, Eman operates a 5-stage value ladder, and it starts a bit like mine and yours do, with free content at the bottom. This is everything from his longer YouTube videos through to his short form clips, which by the way, are the most effective way of driving traffic to that higher level of your ladder. And he does this by cutting up his longer form YouTube videos and podcasts into 30 to 60 second long. And by far, the easiest way for you to do this with your content is by using Submagic's Magic Clips, which automatically cuts up and puts captions onto any long form video you give it. It's also the quickest quickest and easiest way to create captivating short form videos, which of course you're going to need for the first stage of your value ladder. That's if you actually want to drive some traffic. So if you want to try it completely free, there's a link in the description to do just that. Right, that's iMan's and your first stage of the value ladder sorted. And believe it or not, we've actually already covered stage 2 as well, which is of course your lead magnets. This is where the amount of value goes up and the only time the cost is literally nothing. Next on iMan's value ladder is a high $37 a month program, Digital Launchpad. And typically for pretty much all value ladders, it just needs to be a product or service in the $20 to $99 range, which is what we class as low ticket. And although this isn't usually a main focus, it does allow the viewer to go from free products to paying you without a drastic jump to the next tier. Now, the next tier is often a mid-ticket product or service, a bit like in iMan's case, where it has a mid-ticket software, Flowsy. Now, Flowsy costs between $550 to $1,100 a year, which flows up into his final stage of the value ladder, which in iMan's case is his high-ticket systems and operations program, and that's in the multi-4-figure range. And from showing this all mapped out, you can see how he maximizes his revenue at every single stage. But to make it even easier, here's what should be at each stage of the value ladder, with the pricing ranges and some examples of what you can start to implement. So make sure to take note, and if you do want to get incredibly good at the first stage of the ladder, then this video walks you through how to do exactly that.